Ask the Mayor on KWBE with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan. We're trying to get Ashley to hang on and do another half hour here.
Absolutely. You know, I got to tell you that Ashley's done a great job with Keep Beatrice Beautiful, and I know they talked about their tree planting coming up on April 22nd, so we want to make sure that people all plug that event again. And just as a side note, we are an Arbor Day tree city and have been for many, many years, and a tree planting is always a really neat time of the year, and this year tying it in with the elementary is absolutely fantastic. So they're doing a great job. Ashley's doing a great job, and you know, there's a lot of communities that don't have like Keep Auburn Beautiful or whatever, and they may have. I better not use that name, but anyway, you know, it really makes a difference for our community, and we thank them for that organization.
And you get a new project like that in elementary where, you know, a lot of dirt work and sod placement, pays to have a few trees around there, maybe,
you know,
spruce up the area.
Probably in 10 years, there's going to be a lot of shade there for the elementary kids, and they will totally appreciate it.
Yep. Well, we look forward to that. That is on Earth Day, I believe.
I believe so. April 22nd, 9:45.
And we have Arbor Day coming up, too.
We do.
A week after that,
or
whatever. So, okay. A couple of things to talk about today from Monday night's council meeting. The airport is about to get to be a really busy place here in a little while for construction work. I know there's I don't know if they were in yet on the taxiway or the fuel island thing yet. They're getting close to it, I think.
Correct.
And then there's going to be the T-hangar construction. So a lot going on at the facility. So. There is.
You know, I forgot what we said the cost was going to be, but it's pretty astronomical. Yeah. Most of it's grant work. I think our share was a little over $100,000, and I know it's a multi-million-dollar project. Known fact, there's always a waiting list for hangars, so getting the T-hangar has been a godsend, and that was Senator Fisher's earmark for us, and we really appreciate that. Some of the changes will make the airport safer with the moving of the fuel station there, and I think we're adding and doing some apron work. So, yeah, I mean, you know, and if you notice, we had a couple of things where people may or may not know we have a couple of aerial spray applicator companies that work out of Beatrice, and so not only is it taking the commercial flights in and private flights in, but it's also providing a great home base for a couple of aerial applicators, which they're going to be busy as soon as the corn starts coming up.
That's for sure. You mentioned the allocation, congressional allocation. It's been kind of a combination of that and FAA grant.
Correct.
Where you do pay a percentage locally, but I think that percentage is 10, 15, 20%?
On these are 10%. It's 90-20 or 90-10. So that's a great spot to be.
Yeah. Well, I live in an area where, you know, I'm not too far from the glide path, of the runway. I mean, they don't come buzzing right over my place, but you see a lot of business traffic come in daily.
There is. Yeah. You know, and you think about it, it's we have some corporate planes come in, you know, with our folks that visit the industrial park. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm also thinking that some of the people that might land there, it may be easier to land here in Beatrice and drive 35 miles into Lincoln as far as traffic because of the airport. And, you know, we do a good business out there.
Yeah. It's right on the highway there. It's a short jump to go to the capital city from there once you...
It is, you know, and Dennis Schmidt is doing a great job as our airport manager. You know, he's one of those that plan ahead, and, you know, if there is an issue or a challenge that comes up, he usually has one or two solutions for it when he comes in and visits, and, you know, what more can you ask for? Thinking ahead and thinking about how to solve issues that may come up, and, you know, he's been a great asset to the airport.
I was trying to remember time frame on this construction. Probably unfair to ask you, but all the work, given the taxiway, fuel island, apron, T-hangar, is that something that can be bunched into kind of 1 year? Or is that kind of a 2-year thing? I'm not sure.
And I'm not either, but I'm hoping 1 year. And it's kind of interesting for the T-hangar. I know there was a number of bids, and one of the winning bid happened to be the people that are doing the work on the apron and those type of things. So, you know, that might help coordinate time. I don't know.
I see. Okay. One of the things from the, I think it was the consent agenda on Monday night, and those are almost always approved in one vote unless someone pulls an item off there. But one of the things on there was help that the city electric department provided to Omaha Public Power District during an early March storm. Kind of one of those examples of, and I know there's always kind of a debate about this, do you help on things far away? Does that cause a situation where maybe you leave your own area unserved for a while? But what's your thought on that? Because we saw a little bit of that recently here with Norris Public Power getting help from other districts on that big snowstorm and blizzard around here.
Well, yeah. We have mutual aid agreements with a number of locations. And, the one thing to remember is, it kind of leaves us a little bit shorthanded. But when you own your own electric company, you got mutual aid so that if our area was hit hard, they're going to come help us as well. Yeah. And so, that was one of the things that we kind of factored in way back when. And now, 2018 or 19, when we left NPPD and went on our own, we asked ourselves, what happens if you have a tornado or a windstorm or something like we had here? And we looked at our mutual aid and knew that the mutual aid we provide for OPPD or to help Norris, or we travel significant miles to help people, we know they're going to come help us. Yeah. And so it's a win-win situation because those are tragic events, and the sooner you can get people back in power, the better off you are. So having our guys willing to be part of this mutual aid and travel and help out, like OPPD or Norris Public Power or whoever it might be, really could reap its benefits if we have a tragedy here in Beatrice.
And eventually you're reimbursed for that anyway, aren't you?
We are. We're reimbursed, We're reimbursed for the time, the truck usage, the mileage. I think if it's an overnights or whatever, they provide the food for our linemen. I think we just actually updated a little bit of how that works for compensation to the folks that travel to other spots.
Seems to me I remember, I don't know, years ago there was a big ice storm in Lincoln, and I think maybe a few personnel from here helped out in that one too, if I remember right. I don't remember how many years ago that was, but all I can remember was this vision of trees that still had some foliage on them, just sort of draped over power lines, and it was a pretty big mess at the time.
It was. That might have been tied into the year that Halloween was canceled.
Yeah, it could be.
If I remember right, there was a big ice storm that came through there, and there was a number of communities that had to cancel Halloween because of ice, cold weather, and power lines down.
The timing of some of those storms when it's in between growing seasons, too, can make all the difference as to damage and things like that. And it's one of the reasons, too, utility crews undertake tree trimming programs to try to keep facilities clear of obstructions.
Our what I say, preventative maintenance trimming that we do, during the off season has, exponentially paid its dividends. It helps. You're not going to catch everything. You're still going to have a few outages, but it sure, when you whack them out of there, it sure cuts down on somebody losing their electrical power.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't see a whole lot of outages. You'll see, an occasional one for a short period of time, but the last time we had one that lasted, say, a half day or more than a day, I don't remember. It's been a while.
It's been a while. Yeah. And part of that also is with technology. It's amazing that, when the power goes out, people call in. But before they probably dial the phone and call in, we already know. Yeah. Because the
automated meter infrastructure or whatever it is.
It's in place, and when there's a power outage, whether it's a one house or a block or whatever, we know. There's a I suppose a light or something. I would imagine anymore. It's on every one of their cell phones. It dings and says, "Hey, power's out."
Yep. So we're a mobile society. Those guys can check on their phone. They know where to go right away.
Absolutely. So, and you know what? I just, as a side note, we are working hard on some more GIS plotting and planning so the map gets more accurate. It's amazing the technology and that iPad that they have in every one of their trucks, whether it's the water department, the electric department, the sanitation department. It's pretty interconnected and immediate.
Even use that in the Clean City Week pickup that's coming up.
Absolutely.
For tracking things. Rather than the notepad now, you actually can record each location, know what you picked up there, and
Yep.
or if maybe somebody already had it picked up and then they tried to put something out again.
That and
Later.
and the big city pickup is always for specific items, and so if you're putting out your trash and it gets left, we'll know that it was not an approved item.
Yeah, that's coming up later.
That is coming up later. We'll talk about that later.
At the end of this month, that last week, I believe, I remember right. So,
Yep.
You're listening to Ask the Mayor with Mayor Bob Morgan today on KWBE. We'll have more in a moment. You're listening to Ask the Mayor with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan today. A lot of activity in the housing sector as far as development. Some new projects out there in various stages. One of those that is among the newest is, in addition to the Hoppy development use of the former Stoddard School for senior housing there, now there are designs on a plan to use, the south half of that property for new housing.
Right. Same company that bought Stoddard to move it to 55-plus housing. They're putting up what we call affordable housing project if they get their approval of their grants to put that together. And, oh, gosh, I don't forget how many units, but it's going to be a good addition for, I would guess, probably that target market again of that 55-plus. I don't think it's restricted to that, but I think that's probably the market, or at least affordable housing, which I know we heard the definition at City Council, but it's like 40 to 80% of what the median income would be. So
I went down there and looked at that site just the other day after the council meeting, and I kind of forgot. There's quite a bit of room down there. If you look from where the old basketball floor there, or concrete is, to the south, you could fit quite a number of units in there.
Right. It's going to be a nice development. And the other thing that was noted is we bought just a little bit of property back from Hoppy. It's amazing, isn't it? They got to have compensation, so everything you buy and sell for $1.
Yeah.
But we bought that property back because it will be a neighborhood park on that property as well.
Now, you getting a grant for that, right?
We are.
Is that right? Okay. Is that grant already received, money-wise, or I can't remember?
Timing's everything.
Yeah.
Just got notification from the state that we received the $989,000 grant as of yesterday afternoon in my email.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So, yeah.
Good timing on that coming in.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
So, yes.
So that'll basically be where the playground area was, right? Kind of
yes,
the middle
pretty
of the
much.
property.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And one of the things it is with the grant, we had to make sure we had owned the property and we knew exactly where that property was. And so we bought that property and we're able to move forward and make sure there's a neighborhood park in that area.
I'm assuming that's one of those ADA compliant type
Yes.
situations like that. You can't just drop down swing sets anymore like we knew of when we were young, and thought nothing of using them, but they're a little bit different today in terms of the requirements.
I don't know if you can put up a ADA approved, and it needs to be. It really does. Yeah. Times have changed and taken care of that, but it'll be probably $150,000, $200,000.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is with safety concerns and also making sure you put in some type of playground that's going to last. I think that's the other thing. You want to make sure it lasts over time.
Well, on that topic, I hadn't asked you for a while, but Sertoma Astro, that was kind of a grant-funded combination project where private money couples of public money to do that. Where are you at on that? Do you know right offhand? Or
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
But I know that they were close, and some of this money might help put them over the top.
Okay. That's a topic for another program someday.
It really is.
Find out about
Saratoga has been a great partner to the city of Beatrice and to the community developing things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had not driven by the past couple of days, but the demolition at the former Lincoln Elementary property, which is going to be Heritage Heights eventually as a residential development there, coming along pretty well with rubble there and taking that away, or have you seen lately?
I think the goal was to try to get all the rubble out of there by the end of the week, so we're pretty close. Once all the rubble is gone to the C&D site, they'll move over to Paddock, and I think Lincoln took about 2 weeks, so I would imagine we're looking at 2 weeks. I think the goal was to be pretty much everything cleaned off within the end of April.
I see. Okay. those places are going to look a little different for a while.
They are going to look a little different for a while. That's right.
To get home development there. Have you had interest as far as contractors in the ultimately what will be residential neighborhoods of one form of a home or another in there?
We have. We've had some pretty good interest. I know that the city held a public meeting for contractors, and I think we had 30 contractors that showed. It was really twofold. Number one, to get information about, with every housing development, particularly Heritage Heights, and trying to think what the other one, Corral Crossing.
Corral Crossing, that's right.
We want to make sure that they fit into the neighborhood. The terminology is called market rate, but they're basically a home that's going to be probably between 1,400 and 1,700 square feet. And in the covenants, all of them will have some 25 or 30% of some type of stone, brick, stucco, those type of things. And so as you write those covenants together, it was really nice to meet with the contractors, their interests, but also run past those type of stipulations for the homes. And basically all of them thought we were in a good place for the most part. And so it will be exciting. Having that number of contractors that are at least interested, I think that really helps.
Yeah. From a time standpoint, once both sites, the demolition is over, they're cleaned out. As far as construction on infrastructure, streets, electric, water, sewer, what can you say about that? Is that something for this year yet, or how do you see that?
I think we're trying to get it done this year, absolutely. And one of the questions that may be out there is why all the housing? I mean, you think about it, we'll have a couple other housing projects we'll talk about. But I think one of the overarching things that I heard during the campaign running for mayor, and I've heard it for city council and whatnot, is that we want to see Beatrice grow. And in order to grow, we need to have housing. It'd be really nice if at the end of, this next term, 2 years from now, that we would see an increase of a population of somewhere between that up to that 13,000 mark. And in order to get there, we need all types of housing. We need affordable housing, we need workforce housing, and we need market rate housing. And so if you look at these projects, we're providing opportunities for people at every spectrum to build the type of home that is affordable and that they want to live in.
Yeah. Out on East Scott Street, more frames going up. Every time you go by there, they're going pretty good speed on constructing homes there, which will be sort of similar in nature, but again, it's another kind of measure of some type of value in housing that people can look at as an option.
Correct, and the term is market rate. And so, there's no subsidies. There's people that are going to move in there and they're going to pay what you would pay for any home that's for sale just in the city. So, there's always been rumors about, well, is it market rate or not? But yes, it is market rate housing project, and we'll provide some opportunities again for some more people to enjoy home ownership and a nice place to live.
Any update on the Kensington as far as Hoppy's involvement in that, as far as redevelopment of the building itself? I know you had the thing Monday night about the title search thing, and one of these unusual things from the 1800s that nobody knew. That was kind of interesting. I always like to hear about those things. But
I think there was they said there was a title search that showed that they didn't own 3 feet in the alley that they needed to own. And
I think it was 3 feet, 8 inches.
8 inches.
Wasn't it? Something like that.
And it was like 1889.
Yeah.
But we rectified that for $1.
Who finds these things? That's what I want to know.
Title search companies. I can't imagine. I suppose they sit at a computer and probably find all that stuff out. Yeah. But
nobody really knew who had possession of it or whatever.
No. So we fixed that. You are going to see a number of things happening at that site. I think right now you'll see that the alley is blocked off. They need places to have their dumpsters and start working on that to haul out the remodel. As with any city or any community, you're going to see some fencing go up around the sidewalk to protect people. And, you're probably going to have a period of time where that sidewalk is closed as they start working on the exterior of the building. They closed at the end of March, and they're getting anxious to get in and get started. So you'll see some prep work as far as the fencing going up and the alley. Actually see that right now. I think they've moved 2 porta potties in. So they are moving forward, and I would guess that work inside has probably already begun.
One of Beatrice's tallest buildings. That's a big structure down there. So
historic.
You do have to have some clearance there as you work.
You do have to have clearance as you work, and you just want to keep people safe.
Yeah.
I know it's a historic building, so there's historic credits, and so that adds another layer of complexity as they redo the Kensington, because they have to meet historical standards as they work through that project as well. So I think it'll be really neat when it's done. I don't have a time frame, but it's just going to be we're going to be in a lot better place when it's done.
You go through a few periods where you don't see, you see housing being built here and there, but I don't remember, other than maybe the Flowing Springs area and Covered Bridge Heights area where there's been a lot of development out there. I don't remember a time when you've seen so much development in different locations or different areas that for home development in recent years, at least.
Yeah, I don't know if I can go back and see that either.
Yeah.
Now I only go back to 2001, but yes, I think it's exciting. I think it follows that whole philosophy that we've had as we plan for the future. When you get the 2 school sites developed, are they going to fill up right away? Absolutely not. But are they going to fill up over the next 10 years? Probably so. Yeah. And so, that always, that, and in some respects, that slow and steady growth is probably better than exponentially growing immediately.
Yeah. Okay. Back to wrap up, Ask the Mayor with Mayor Bob Morgan in a moment. We have about 4 minutes left on our Ask the Mayor program today with Mayor Bob Morgan. A couple of things to touch on. Had an update report on the community food pantry, which for many, many years was in the lower level of St. John's Lutheran Church in Beatrice, and then moved to the former fire department headquarters in the lower level of the municipal auditorium. It seems like that has worked out very well.
It has. It has. And, hats off to the people that are on the board of the pantry, the manager of the pantry, and all the volunteers. I think one of the things that the figures show that about 150 people a month use it. There's a need for it. You'd like to think that there's not, but there is, and it doesn't really matter which community you're in. There is a need for people to make sure that they have food.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really interesting that their numbers ebb and flow a little bit. I think with low and reduced lunches, I think there's probably some things during the school year that take care of some of the hunger needs, and I'm very grateful for that. I thought it was interesting that January, February, March, April-ish, there's always some tax returns that come in, and so there's some opportunities there to take a little heat off of the pantry. But when you get into that time frame of the summer, they're kind of one of the main sources for people that are in need.
Yeah. And, you always want to thank the people who started it, that had it at St. John's Lutheran Church. But also when you did move to the auditorium, just from an accessibility standpoint, that did improve things quite a bit.
Yes. And we're very grateful for it started at St. John's. It just turned out to be, I think, a little better situation from parking and space. And what a great use of a public property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Want to ask you a procedural thing just briefly at the end of the meeting here, because we see it as go to council meetings all the time. But talk about suspension of the rules to consider an item where you can opt to, if you get a certain number of council votes, to read ordinances or take actions. Instead of 3 separate rounds, you can do it all at once. 2 schools of thought on there. Some people, and it's been brought up here recently, that maybe you should slow that down and take it round by round, give people more time to discuss issues. Or the other school of thought is, well, if you do that on a lot of things, then you kind of hold up progress.
Correct. Yeah.
What's your thought?
I mean, you have to weigh out weigh out the situations. I'll give you 2 examples where we didn't even give the city council the option to suspend the rules, and that was on UTVs and fireworks. We felt like those were 2 big issues that we really needed time to get some input for the 3 meetings. Most everything else that we do is somewhat routine on the ordinances, and we do need to make sure that we get through things. I think if there's enough council members that feel like they want to pull it off, they certainly can. I think it's one of those things, what is it? You have to have 6 votes in order to suspend the rules. And so if 3 council members believe it's something that we should, pull off, they have the ability to do that. So suspending the rules always has that safeguard that if you think there needs to be more discussion collectively, then you can.
Just trying to remember when there are required times where you can't use suspension. The only one I can think of is zoning, when you change
Correct.
a zone, say like from commercial to residential or industrial back to commercial or RC. You have to do it round by round.
There are several times that you have to you can't suspend the rules, but I think there's only 1 or 2, and I think zoning's one of them. I don't know what the other one is. I don't remember.
The other thing on giving the public more chance to, discuss, consider issues, by virtue of your website now, you can look up a lot of information that's coming up on a council meeting ahead of time. And I know some people do that. Some people maybe don't have the time to do that. But there are options out there for you to learn about, what you're talking about ultimately. There
are. We I think, again, hats off to Amanda who runs our social media platform and those things that are out there. I think we're at the same place we probably have been for 20 years. It's everybody's busy. I think about, a great opportunity to have community involvement with the police officers, and we had the meeting. I think 12 showed up. You would have thought there would have been more, and they're going to have another one because it is an important part of the community, but it's just tough.
Yeah.
A
lot of competing things going on.
There is.
Meetings, interests,
right?
Kids, ball games, everything else.
That's right.
Get it all in there. So, Mayor, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Doug, thank you.